All right, let's dive into a story that really puts family loyalty under the microscope. We're talking about a canceled 18th birthday, nearly 2 decades of resentment simmering just under the surface, and one single choice, a choice that ends up changing an entire family forever. It's a wild one. So, get this? This one sentence right here, this is what kicks the whole thing off. A 23-year-old woman said this about her own sister's 18th birthday party. I mean, talk about chilling. It just pulls back the curtain on a jealousy that had been rotting away for years. Okay, so to really get how things got so bad, we have to rewind a bit. We need to look at the family dynamic that was at play for almost 2 decades. Because, this story isn't just about one canceled party. No. It's about a long, long history of favoritism. And here it is laid out plain as day. You can see the two totally different worlds these sisters lived in, right? On one side, you've got Aviana. For her, life was all about compromises, hand-me-downs, always giving up what she wanted. But then you have Amanda, the classic golden child. For her, it was Scottsdale shopping sprees and everyone tiptoeing around her feelings. And let's be clear, this wasn't just some phase. This was an 18-year pattern of straight-up favoritism that was basically a ticking time bomb. There's actually a name for this whole dynamic. It's called golden child syndrome. And it's a real recognized pattern in toxic families. It's where one kid is put on a pedestal and can do no wrong, while the other, the scapegoat, gets ignored or blamed for everything. And this story, it's like a textbook, real-life example of just how destructive that can be. All right, so now let's get to the main event. The moment that took all that resentment we've been talking about and just made it explode. We're talking about Aviana's 18th birthday. This day was supposed to be this huge, happy celebration, but instead, it became the final straw. So, picture this. Aviana spends her whole day just full of hope, right? She's decorating, hanging lights. She even bakes her favorite chocolate chip cookies from this special family recipe. She's building this perfect party for herself. And the whole time, she has absolutely no clue that her own family is secretly tearing the whole thing down behind her back. It's just... wow. Man, you can just feel the dread building with this timeline, can't you? At 7 p.m., it's just a little worry setting in, but by 9 p.m., the phone is dead silent, the house is empty, and it's full-on panic mode. And then 15 minutes later, at 9:15, her parents just casually dropped the bombshell. Oh yeah, they canceled her party. Why? Because her older sister was upset about a trip to LA getting postponed? Unreal. And that was their excuse. Can you believe it? They said Amanda, a 23-year-old adult, mind you, was in a fragile emotional state over a canceled trip. So instead of, dealing with their adult daughter's meltdown like normal parents, their solution was to just completely erase their other daughter's huge milestone 18th birthday. It's just baffling. So, as you can imagine, the confrontation after that was just explosive. We're talking 18 years of frustration finally pouring out of Aviana. But right when the fight was at its absolute peak, a surprise visitor shows up. And this person? They're about to change the entire power dynamic of this family forever.
Yeah, it went from a yelling match to a full-blown physical fight between the two sisters. So you've got this total chaos, parents trying to pull them apart, and right in the middle of it all, the doorbell rings. And who's standing there? Their grandfather, William, the patriarch of the family.
And this was the moment the dam just burst. Aviana tells her grandfather everything. Not just about the canceled party, but about all the years of being treated like she was invisible. And for the first time in her life, she's telling someone who's actually listening, someone who actually has the power to do something about it. And that's when the first huge bombshell drops. Her grandfather reveals that he's been secretly sending her parents money every single month for the last 3 years. Turns out, the family was about to go bankrupt, and he was the only reason they were staying afloat. Get this, even Aviana's party, the one they canceled, was paid for with his money. So, after hearing the whole story and realizing his money was just being used to fuel this toxic behavior, Grandpa William had enough. He made a decision right then and there. He cut his son off completely. And then he turned to Aviana and said the words that would change her life. He offered her a way out, right on the spot.
So Aviana leaves with her grandfather, but her parents? Oh, they weren't about to give up. Not because they actually missed her, of course, but because they were desperate to get their money back. And this desperation, well, it led Aviana to come up with one final and honestly brilliant test to expose their true colors once and for all. And just like that, the apologies started rolling in, but they were so hollow. They tried to twist their neglect into some kind of compliment, saying stuff like this: "We took your strength for granted." Can you believe that? Basically blaming Aviana's own independence for their terrible parenting. It was just pure, shameless manipulation. So Aviana decides to play their little game. She says, "Okay, I'll think about coming home, but there's one condition. A simple one, really. Amanda, who's 23 and has a job, finally has to move out." I mean, it's a totally reasonable request, right? But it was genius because it backed her parents into a corner. They were forced to choose their money supply or their golden child. So for days, crickets. Her parents were totally silent. You could just tell they were cornered. And their final decision and the massive fallout that came with it, well, let's just say it delivered a swift and frankly very satisfying dose of karma. And it set Aviana on a path to a whole new life. Then, 2 days later, the answer came. It arrived in a short, brutally honest text message. A message that would vaporize any tiny little shred of doubt about where their priorities really were. They just came out and admitted it. Just outright. They never actually wanted Aviana back. They only wanted her grandfather's money. And since they'd found a new business partner, they didn't need her anymore. They chose Amanda. They chose their pride. They chose anything and everything over their other daughter. And the consequences? They were swift and they were absolute. For the parents and Amanda, everything fell apart. They lost the financial support, the rest of the family cut them off, and they had to seriously downsize their whole lifestyle. And Aviana? Well, she thrived. Her grandfather supported her through college, she built amazing friendships, and for the very first time in her life, she actually felt valued. And here's the kicker. After that last hateful text message, her parents actually tried to block her. But you know what? She beat them to it. With one last click, she was the one who severed the connection for good. She took back control of her own story and finally freed herself from all that toxicity. You know, this whole story leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. Aviana lost the family she was born into, yeah, but she found a real parent in her grandfather. She built a new support system from the ground up. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? When the family you're given is just toxic, maybe the real meaning of family is found in the one you choose to build for yourself.